This is a really interesting subject. This is the repatriation of our soldiers, our fallen soldiers from World War II. This interview came from RootsTech with a lady named Cheri Passey. She is awesome, and she is a professional genealogist who her job is to help research the family history of our fallen soldiers in World War II, and this work comes to her from the military. So they're trying to match up some of the DNA from our fallen soldiers and try and match them up with the family, the surviving family. And so this is what she does. So while I was at RootsTech, I was able to sit down and interview Cheri Passey. And so this interview, you'll see, is about this process that she goes through to help bring our soldiers home from World War II.
We've got thousands of missing soldiers, especially from World War II, that the Army is working on. And what happens is they will send me a case, and in the case file, it will give me the information on the next of kin at that time when the soldier entered the Army. Well, of course, it's all these years later, and so my task is to take any clue that I can find from their paperwork, and I start building a tree and start going down and try to find, I have to find who would be the next of kin. And sometimes, I mean, it's way down, like a first cousin 6 times removed. I mean, they're way down the tree. The cool thing is when I find someone who has their medals that have been passed down. Oh yeah, I'll help you. I've got their Purple Heart. I think the best story was I found a woman. I saw that there was a daughter still alive, supposedly still alive, because sometimes you call and they've passed away. She answered the phone. She goes, I just got your letter. And she says, I am planning my 87th birthday party today with my daughter. Now, I don't know if the bodies have been found. They don't tell me that. My job is just to find next of kin, secondary next of kin, and then they want 1 Y DNA at least, and they want 3 the mtDNA because they go into the bone marrow, and that's how they identify the soldier. You would think that they would just want all this Y DNA, and so I have to explain to the family why we would need their help. And a lot of people think it's a scam that I'm asking for money. So I have to let them know, no, the Army, if they'll send you a DNA kit. It's between you and the Army whether you do that DNA. I'm not gonna deal with you in the DNA. And if they do identify the soldier, the Army will pay for them to bring the body back. So I guarantee them that there is no money coming out of their pocket, that the Army takes care of everything. And they decide, the next of kin decides, do we want the body just buried, you know, respectfully where they found the body, leave it there, or do they want it brought home? And so that's up to the family to decide. But they're the ones, the Army can't decide that. The legal next of kin decides that. So it's been interesting. People are very, depends. You know, some of them will never answer me back and I have to keep calling and calling and calling. Some people, I send out a priority letter and it's like the next day that I've seen it's delivered and they've called me. And so it just depends. Some people are really excited because they remember the stories of the soldier, and some people have no idea whatsoever that they've got a missing soldier. Or they'll tell me, oh no, this person is buried in this grave. I can even tell you what cemetery they're in, and I have to explain to them that a lot of times there's no body in there. My grandfather died in Peleliu in World War II. His 2 of his other brothers died in Italy. One his plane went down right outside of Sicily, and they never found his body. But there is a grave there with a monument, and so if we don't keep that story alive and next generations down, they're going to assume that Edmund was buried in that grave, and he's not. There's nothing in there. And so I have to explain to them, just because there's a marker doesn't mean that there's anything in the grave. They just wanted to honor him, so the 3 brothers are buried together. Oh, we're only doing World War II. What I'm doing right now is just World War II. Right. I know that there's other groups that do other wars, but there's just so many from World War II. And I mean, most of these are just young men. Most of them never married before they left, and so they don't have children. Now, when they have children, that's happy dance time for me because it's easier to find. But a lot of times I'll find that the soldier was maybe the only child And then his dad was the only child. His dad was the only child. And so I have to just keep going back up the generations and then try to come out and come down. There are times when we just can't find anybody, and I just have to write that in the report. There just is nobody. And that breaks my heart, because I want them found and I want them brought home. I never know what happens after I send my report. So the only time that I'm going to ever know that one of my soldiers came home is a news report, because you see that on the news, that a soldier has come home. And so I'll say, oh, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm hoping that I'll recognize the name of one of the soldiers that I work on. And I'll say, yes, they came home.
Do you have to have military World War II knowledge of the different units and the different...
No, they're very good about sending me the documents that I need, the different ranks and what they're called now, and because they change over the years, and their abbreviations change, and so we've got all that kind of information, and I get all the information that I need to send to the family, and the family gets a letter telling them that they've opened a case. I can't guarantee that the body's been found, but we really need their help in trying to identify the soldiers. And sometimes, even if it's not their soldier, it will rule out, okay, this guy's not him, so he must be another person from this unit, from this plane that went down, or from the soldiers we know are buried here. And so sometimes the DNA simply just rules them out. And so that's hard, because I can't say, and some people get so excited. We've talked about this soldier all our lives, and I just have to say, I wish I could tell you that this case is open because they found him, but I can't, because I don't know. I don't know.
Do artifacts come home with the soldiers? Like things they're...
I would assume so. I've got, when my grandfather's body was returned, I've got his dog tags. But that's all that came was his dog tags. Now, my grandmother may have gotten some other things, but who knows? I know that she had letters from him, and when she remarried, she gave away those letters, and so now we don't have them, because she thought she was being maybe unfaithful. So I don't know what comes home, because I'm not involved in that part. So I'm sure if they...
never meet the family?
I don't meet the family, but I have great conversations with them, and I guess we could meet. If a soldier was coming home and I knew I worked on that soldier, I would get myself there, and I would meet the family. So because the families that I do are from all over the country. It's not like because I live in South Carolina, I'm just doing South Carolina research on soldiers. So they're from all over the country. So
are there a lot of people that do what you do?
Yes, there are several companies that do what I do, and it's because there's so many missing men. There's so many. Yeah, and they just want to bring them home, Another thing that I do too, and I just wanted to throw this out, is I work with descendants of the enslaved people, because I am a descendant of enslavers, and that's one of my passions as well, is to work together with them and teach them how to talk to each other, and be able to pull out information from records and help them maybe go back another generation or two, because when you are researching your enslaved ancestor, you have to research the enslaver, because your records are mingled together. They had the same experiences. I mean, one was worse than the other, but what I'm saying is they lived in the same area, they had the same storms, they had the same, you know what I'm saying? A lot of their records are intermeshed together. The enslaved were their property, and so you find their information in wills and inventories and all those kind of things. And so I like to encourage people to work together. I've gone back helping a particular ancestor had some enslaved people, and I've reached out to their descendants, and we were able, through a couple of documents, go back 2 generations in that enslaved person's genealogy, and it's just by putting the pieces together. And so that's one of my passions too, is to help people understand that you can work together. And then just recently, real quick, I found out that one of my genealogy friends is a descendant of somebody who was enslaved by one of my ancestors. Yes, luckily I've known her for a while. And we are getting ready to actually do a presentation together, a panel in a couple of months together on that. So It was amazing. She saw it on my family tree on Ancestry, and she says, "Are you kidding me? I am a descendant of that person." And I thought, oh gosh, no, it's been wonderful. So we're getting ready to talk about that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You guys are great.